All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about how the Spurs did in summer league today in their first game. And so what I have here is I'm just going to show you all my notes that I take during the games, the summer league games. I will admit that during the first quarter, my notes aren't very good because that's when the whole Gallinari news broke. So I had to be working with the cap sheets and things like that. So I didn't get to watch as much of the game as I wanted in that first quarter. So yes, they did lose to the Cavaliers here, 99-90. They were it became a 20-point game at one time, but then the Spurs fought back in the fourth quarter, made it a little competitive, but they ended up losing. So I mainly focused on 4 players who I know for sure should be on the team this coming season, and that's Josh Primo, Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham, and Dominic Barlow. So I'm going to start with Primo here. And again, I'm not going to go. You can see the screen. I'm not going to go too deep into some of the stats and things like that. But I do want to share some of my observations and what I noticed. Watching him on each end of the floor. So Primo scores 20 points to lead the team, along with Blake Wesley on 12 shots. He had a good shooting night: 5 of 7 from 3, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 5 assists, 3 turnovers in 29 minutes. In the first quarter, one thing I noted again was an observation was he ran the offense in the half court mainly once Wesley got subbed out. So initially, when Primo and Wesley were together to start the game, Wesley was very aggressive, and so he was doing a lot of running the offense, initiating a lot of the aggression there. And then once he got subbed out, it became Josh's turn to kind of run the offense and run more pick and roll, run more in the half court, try to create his own shot or for others. On one play I noted here in the first half, he got into the paint and kicked out to Wesley for a corner 3. For I think all 3 of Wesley's made threes, Primo was the passer on there. So again, there's already that early connection between the 2 teammates. One thing we want to note though is that because he is, he's only in his second year, but he was considered the veteran player on the Spurs team. The Cavaliers defense was ready for him. They were worried about him, trying to pick them apart and break them down. And so we saw early double team action from Cleveland and some trapping. Early on, it started in the second quarter. They would throw random double teams at Primo to get the ball out of his hands, and then he even continue to see double teams and traps in the fourth quarter. That happened on several possessions there, even in the fourth quarter. Even though Cleveland, like I mentioned, was up by a lot of points. He did become very aggressive late, though, in the fourth quarter, especially because the Cavs were playing single coverage defense on him. We saw a sequence where he put up 8 points in a row like this. He had a step back 3 contested. He had a runner on a drive, and then he also had a pull up 3 with the hand in his face. And he made all 3 of those shots in a row on different sequences. And so again, he showed early that he can become aggressive late there in that game, rather than in the beginning. He was be more of the player who's kind of setting the tone for the team. And then he was also seeing a lot of double teams. Defensively, he had 1 block and 1 foul. I didn't see too much on the defensive end, just very similar to what we saw last year. He's just a good defender in terms of getting in position. He does a good job of staying in front of his opponent, not fouling a lot. And so we did see on multiple attempts where he's getting his hand in the face of the opponents when they're taking shots. So he's just a good player at contesting shots. And for being a rookie last year, per 36 minutes, he was one of the Spurs' leading guards in shot contests. So again, he's continued to keep that skill, and he should get better now that he's in the second year. All right, so let's go to Blake Wesley, the rookie here. He also had 20 points like Josh on 16 shot attempts. He was definitely the most aggressive player on the floor. Took a lot of shots, especially early. He shot well from 3 of 4 from 3-point range. A lot of those were spot-ups looks that Primo created for him, so he had some good open space to shoot those shots. He got to the foul line, tied for the most on the team. He had 3 of 4 makes on the free throw line. He also showed his ability to set up teammates. So 6 assists, team leader there in assist. He did have 3 turnovers. Mainly those were more so in the second half. The Cavs put some full court pressure on him, and he played 31 minutes. He did kind of had a leg injury, but then I think the Spurs medical team were able to attend to him on the bench, and he was able to return to the game. He did, like I mentioned, initiate a lot of the offense early, and then also throughout the game. In the first quarter, he was very aggressive, like I mentioned, kind of just putting up most of the Spurs' shots. They subbed him out pretty early in the game, and then when he came back in, he was a little bit calmer in terms of running the team. One thing I noticed is that he can just change speed so quickly. He can just be hesitating the dribble as he's dribbling up court, and if he sees there's a path open to the rim, he can easily turn on his speed burst and attack the defense. That was one thing I really noticed, since I hadn't seen a lot of Blake Wesley play before. He has a very quick release on his pull-up jump shot. So there was one play where he's in the mid-range near the corner, and he kind of just puts a left-hand dribble down and then just quickly pulls up for the shot, and he made it. So again, he has a very quick pull-up jumper. I know in the first quarter. He missed a few of those pull-ups. He does prefer to drive left a lot, and I think the Cavs could already see that. Almost a lot of his drives, they were going left, and a lot of times the Cavs defenders were able to block his shot or make him miss and kind of throw up some wild shots. He did get a really nifty shot where instead of going straight to the left, he actually went under the basket and finished with the right hand. There was one play also where instead of doing a layup, he kind of put the ball up on the left side of the glass, and he got it to go in. In the second half, we did see the Cavs provide some pressure on him, full court especially, and he did have a turnover on one of those possessions. And then just one thing you notice about him on the floor compared to the other Spurs players is that he's just constantly moving. He just has so much energy that he brings to the floor. Like you definitely don't forget that he's out on the floor on both ends. He's just constantly moving, swaying, ready to go and ready to attack. And so that's something I noted again from watching Blake Wesley. On defense, he did finish with 1 steal and two fouls. Just some notes that I noted on defense. He shuffles his feet quickly. He's able to stay with the ball handler, and he's pretty good at anticipating when switches need to happen. So he's pretty good at switching with his teammates, considering they've only had a few practices together, and this is their first summer league game. And a lot of these teammates won't even be with him on the regular season Spurs roster because there's only a few of these players that will make the full team. All right, let's shift over to Malachi Branham. He finishes with 15 points on 15 shots. He kind of had a struggling first half shooting the ball, but then he got it together in the second half. He went 2 of 6 from three-point range, 1 of 1 from the free throw line. He got 1 offensive rebound, zero turnovers. That's a good note for him in 28 minutes. Just something I noticed is that he's a little bit more methodical in how he attacks you as an offensive player. He definitely got a mid-range to go in early with the step back after driving off the catch. He attacks in the half court out of the triple threat position. So unlike Wesley and Primo, who are ready to attack, they can just pick up the ball and go. He kind of like surveys what he's going to do first, and he gets in that triple threat position. But he can definitely put the ball on the floor. Now with him, it's a little bit different. He's going to more so try to get to that mid range area. And so we saw one possession where he tried to drive on his defender, and instead of like kind of go hard at the rim, he instead tried to back down his defender and try to get that fadeaway mid range jumper. And again, I know that in the draft process, the comp for him was always Chris Middleton, and you can definitely see on his jumper, his mid-range jumper, that there's definitely a lot of Chris Middleton, especially that 3-level scoring in his game, especially in that mid-range area. His jumper at times, even in the mid-range, kind of looks similar to Middleton's. The Spurs were actually experimenting with him as a lead ball handler on a few possessions. On one specific, they had him run a double drag screen. He wasn't basically able to finish, going by his defender, and he had said he put up a wild shot off the glass that didn't go in. And then on another play, they even had him run solo pick and roll by himself for a while. And again, he wasn't the primary attacker, but I think they just wanted to experiment with seeing what he does. But he's definitely a player who's gonna attack off secondary action. He's not going to be the guy that they want to initiate initially, bringing the ball up and then just attacking the defense like Blake Wesley or Primo can do. On defense, he had 2 defensive rebounds, 2 fouls. Just some notes that I noted. He had good footwork containing a player from driving on him, and I think that was in the first half. He forced the player to pass instead of drive. So he's pretty good again at containing the ball and stopping players from getting by him. But we do have to note again, this is summer league, so these aren't the top NBA level players who are able to break you down and really go by you. So we'll see how that goes during the regular season whenever that time approaches against more of the elite players in the league. And then the last player I want to talk about is Dominic Barlow, who is expected to sign a 2-way contract with the Spurs. It hasn't been made official just yet. He had 9 points in this game on 5 field goal attempts. He got to the free throw line, 3 of 4 free throws. He actually got there on 2 back-to-back and 1 possessions. He had 3 offensive rebounds in 21 minutes. Just again, he's more so. His skills are definitely on the defensive end, is where I noted a lot more of his possessions. But there were some things I noted on offense here. He tries to stay active on offense. He's quick at cutting. I noted working on how to get. And one thing he's working on is learning how when he sets a pick is how does he get separation from that scramble of teams either switching or icing the defense or going under on screens. He doesn't really. He had some trouble there, kind of just trying to get that separation so he can be ready for a rolling pass like a pocket pass. And so that's something that I think he's going to continue to work on. He had one make near the rim where he uses his body kind of like to push into the defender and to create separation. Then he finished with the layup for an and one opportunity. There was another possession where he ran the floor really well in the open court. He got positioning under the rim. Josh Primo found him for a layup and he put that in. And again, that was the second back-to-back and one opportunity. On defense, though, is definitely where he shows his skills, and that's something that we noted beforehand. He had mentioned how he thinks that he can switch 1 through 5 in the NBA. He told us that at summer league practice, the media. So he finishes with 4 defensive rebounds, 1 steal, and 6 fouls. He did play the 5 for the Spurs in this game. It was basically him and Robert Wood, the third or second that played the front court. So just some things that I noted on him on defense is he's able definitely to switch defensively, like on the different players. There was times where he got stuck guarding a guard or a big man, so he was definitely able to do that, switch defensively, like he had mentioned. He's good at he had good defense on one possession against the drive without fouling. He was a little late on help on one possession, and then he ended up fouling the cutter. And then just something else I noted was that he's just really good at running the floor well. He's very active. He can kind of move. He has good mobility where he's able to move, maybe to the three-point line or down back to the paint really quickly. And we saw that on a possession where the Cavs were kind of running the ball down court, and no Spurs players had picked up the player that was closest to the rim at one time.